What is up, Buckeye Nation? Floco here with Ohio State Football with Scarlet and Great right here on YouTube. We appreciate you guys as always. Our good friend is joining us today, Dylan Freeman. Dylan, how are you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Corey?
Pretty good. It's a great, beautiful day out there, and I know because I did some work on my AC, so that was fun earlier. I got it flowing again, and it's Florida, so I need it for sure. Oh, man. We're getting closer and closer to Buckeye season. We're going to talk about QB battle rumors today, and there's some recruiting rumors that are going on right now, Dylan. And you are the man we go to for that because you have your ear to the ground. You know what's going on inside the Ohio State and the Woody. I don't, so I defer to you. Guys, if you're watching, you like what you see, help us get to 6,000 subscribers. So hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys, as always. Like the video if you like what you see. Comment below. What's going on with the QB battle? What do you think? Who do you want to win? But right now, we're going to talk about who we think is winning the battle. Dylan, off the top of your head, who do you think is winning the battle?
Will Howard. They brought him in here to start.
You know what? I'm getting out of here. Will Howard. Why Will Howard?
I think that he has experience, not necessarily in our system, but just playing college football. I think he's the better runner between the two. And I think that just gives him the edge, and I think they trust him already, which is something that I thought might take till into fall camp. But it looks like they're already starting to trust him more and more every single practice that they had during the spring. They trotted him out there with the ones during the spring game. I thought that was pretty telling, even though that there was some practices that he was not the one. Like I'd say majority that he was not the one. I thought it was pretty telling that they brought him out there first snap in the spring game with all the ones and let him have the most run with him.
Do you think there's anything to the theory on that they just brought him out just to kind of put him in front of the crowd at Buckeye Stadium and see what he had?
I don't see it would be. I think it would be the same if they put him out there second. Do you know what I mean? If they would have brought him out, I think a lot of the fans want Devin Brown, and I think that they would have been just as happy having him come out there number one. You know what I mean? And then have Will Howard coming in there second. So I don't really think it mattered on that end as far as what they were trying to do. I think it was just a sign of faith and trust in him that they are like, hey, this is your show until you prove otherwise.
Gotcha. Okay, so let me ask you something then. If we're talking about a battle between Devin Brown and Will Howard, what are the coaches exactly looking for? I mean, what do they need in their starting quarterback?
So if you asked me last year, that's a little – I mean, it was a
different story last year.
Yeah, completely different story than what they were looking for this year. This year – they're looking at someone to help you pick up yards on the ground, which both quarterbacks can do. You know what I mean? I'm not saying Devin's a bad runner because he's a willing runner, and he likes to run. And same with Will. As much as he said that I'm not coming to Ohio State to be a running quarterback, I mean, that's still a huge part of his skill set. You know what I mean? So he wants to capitalize and use every advantage he has in his arsenal. So I think that they were looking for someone to control the ball, pick up those 3rd and 5s where no one's open. And last year we weren't getting that. You know what I mean? And it was a combination of things that we weren't getting. But I think that's really one, taking care of the ball and willing to make the tough throws that we weren't last year. It was kind of gun shy. And I think that being able to kind of make sure that we're actually taking advantage of the receivers, let them make the plays. Have JJ Smith, Egbuka, and Carnell and Ennis. Like we have guys just getting them the ball.
Yeah, I was noticing in practice they're running a lot of RPO type stuff, slant type stuff, and obviously that's designed to give the quarterback some options clearly, but it's also designed to get the quarterback or to get the receiver open in space.
It is, one or two guys who miss a tackle. You know what I mean? And then that's what we want. Yeah. And with our running game right now our running game is going to be a major focal point of our offense this year.
You would hope so.
So just being able to have those RPOs back in your back pocket and using those off of it, like it's a pretty big deal. And especially I think both our quarterbacks have that strength, but Will Howard has already done that in the college level for the last 2 years.
Well, let me ask you. We had from the best damn pod in the land, Dan Jibjack, a nice guy, came on the show, and we had a great talk about Devin Brown. And his concern with Will Howard is that as the game goes on, he can't make those throws, those mid-range to deep throws that need to be made because you're talking about making tougher throws. And I agree with that. Sometimes, and maybe McCord was a little gun shy at times. I mean, obviously Ryan Day hammers it into his quarterback's heads. Don't turn the ball over. So do you think that there's a concern there with Will Howard that maybe he can't make those mid to deep throws late in the game when we need it?
Yes, I mean, I do think that's his weakness. You know what I mean? Those 20-yard throws are not his strength. There's not. However, I mean, if you watched, I mean, a little bit we have seen of Devin, which isn't a whole lot, but practice, spring games, and things like that. You don't know what you're getting from him either. He can make it all day long. Like, you know what I mean? He's probably the best at that, but you just don't know what you're getting consistently. And that's one of the things that in the spring that they were struggling with Devin is they really liked a lot of his game, that he improved tremendously in multiple aspects. It's still just consistency. And I think that Will, you know what you're getting consistently in him, and that's not his strength. I think he has a big enough arm. I mean, if you watch his game film and things like that, not just a couple of highlights they put together, they're showing like the full games that they showed at Kansas State. That we were like when they first announced that he would be coming here. He's throwing the ball deep. I mean, 30-yard route. His receivers are. Hey, he had a fullback / tight end was his best wide receiver last year. Yeah. And he's a very good player. You know, I mean, he's going to play in the NFL. That guy is a really good player. But I mean, he's not a guy that's stretching the field vertically. And
not exactly what Ohio State's dealing with right now.
Yeah, and they had a lot of drops, similar to what we had last year. We had a lot of drops. And so, I mean, yeah, I think it's a combination.
Some people tried to put that on McCord, saying his ball placement was so bad that it caused a lot of drops. What do you think about that?
To an extent. I mean, I think there was times that, I mean, we saw Marv had to make a great play, right? But there's also times that he threw a great ball to Marv on a 20-yard out route, and Marv dropped it. You know what I mean? That the year before, same pass that Stroud threw, that he catches that one 10 out of 10 times, and he just wasn't. So I think it was a combination of not perfect placement like they've had the last 2 years with CJ. So I think any pass is not going to live up to those standards as we've seen last year in the NFL.
CJ is a ball placement magician and a wizard, so it's like it's hard to compete with that. So let me ask you a question. Like I have a theory about why Howard was brought in. I don't know that he was brought in necessarily to be guaranteed a starting spot. I think he's brought in because other than Devin Brown, you had virtually nothing at quarterback. I don't mean talent-wise. I think Lincoln's got some talent, but, you know, nobody would feel good about going with him as a backup straight up after the Missouri game. Not that it was all his fault. That offensive line was putrid. But and then, of course, you got Julian Saint and Aaron Noland back there. And it's like, do you really want to go in with true freshmen as your next guy? So you got to have at least two guys that have some game experience and can play a little bit. I think he was brought in as an insurance policy. If he wins a job, great. He probably had the inside track to win the job based on what they paid him and based on I don't think money has everything to do with it. I just want to clear that up because I know people will chop that clip up. But it's just based on what they paid him. He had a little bit inside track, and the fact that Devin is a little bit, I don't want to say injury prone, but he's been injured a few times. So imagine going into the season, he gets injured early in the season, and you're stuck with Lincoln. You're stuck with, it's like where does your great roster go? I think with this roster in place, they had to bring in an insurance policy.
I think, yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thing as well. Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day, the two best quarterback coaches, both really wanted him, Will Howard. You know what I mean? And so I think that
Lincoln Riley wanted Will Howard. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that was his original top target.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they both really wanted him, and two of them.
Well, look what he did with Jalen Hurts. That actually makes sense.
Yes. So they both wanted him, the two best quarterback developers, and like you said, at worst, he's a backup. Like someone that started, what was it, 22 games at Kansas State and
won a Big 12,
won Big 12 championship. So I think at worst he was, what you're going to have, and if things go awry, he was going to be ready to go and not have any drop off really.
That makes sense. And it's like I really wanted Devin. I think it would have been a different story if Devin had balled out in Missouri and he'd just been like lights out, 300 yards, whatever. I think they would have just stuck with him and said, he's our guy next year no matter what. And maybe found somebody a little lesser than Will Howard to be just a compete for that backup spot. But it just became a different story once he twisted his ankle and he couldn't go back in, and our offense could not move the ball at all. That's when you knew we got to go get a quarterback. We have to go.
Pre McCord leaving, the staff had no thoughts. Like even if there was reports out there, the staff had no thoughts of bringing in a transfer quarterback. Like that was it. They trusted their quarterback room. I know it. it was not amazing last year, you know what I mean, by any stretch, but they trusted it and did it get better at least. And so, yeah, there was no thoughts until right around a week and a half before the bowl game prep started that we were like, okay, we think we need to bring someone in. Yeah. Like it really became prevalent and a pretty big pressing issue for the team to get someone they trusted at least in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you something. It wasn't just Will Howard. There were rumors we were going after other guys like Dillon Gabriel and Cam Ward. How close were we to getting anybody else?
Getting anyone? I don't really think that we were close to getting anyone else. I don't think we really pushed.
What was the issue with Cam Ward? I was really actually getting excited about him.
Yeah, so Cam Ward. So he wanted money, which is one of the things that we did not want to pay that much.
No wonder he's at Miami.
It wasn't the astronomical number that was discussed. You know what I mean?
$2 million.
Like $2 million. It wasn't that high. You know what I mean? So I don't want like it was, but we didn't want to pay that much money. And there was rumors going around at the time that people at Washington State were not advocating for him when teams were calling and saying, "Hey, like, what can you tell me about him?" Like, I don't know him personally, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's true. I just know that people were not necessarily speaking praises and giving a glowing endorsement when they reach out to that staff.
I got you. So it was basically, and Dillon Gabriel wanted Oregon pretty much from the start.
We would have taken Dillon Gabriel too. Like those are the two guys that we really would have taken.
And Will Howard, if we didn't get him, then we probably would have stuck with Devin Brown. Do you think?
Yeah. I don't think there's anyone else. And we looked at we looked at Riley Leonard a little bit.
True. But he was heavily Notre Dame.
Yeah, he'd already committed to Notre Dame. He put, you know what I mean? Like that was already a done deal. But he liked us. It was just never progressed past. He already knew he was going.
They were flirting, but it never went past that. So anyway. So we ended up with Will Howard. It is what it is now, and we're going to end up with But Will Howard, you think is going to be the starter? I tend to think he will be as well. Part of me prefers Devin Brown because of the unknown, but I am perfectly fine either way. I really don't care. I keep telling people that. Nobody believes me. I really don't care. Just win ball games and go beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and go to the playoffs and win the Natty. And I don't care. I don't even care if that's Julian Sayin or Aaron Owen that does that. Cool, you know. So doesn't matter who it is, just go win. Let's go into the recruiting news. What's going on with Jaime French?
So the reports came out that he said it, like there's videos of him saying who his leaders are in that recruitment, and Ohio State, and we were running fourth or fifth in that group behind.
Yeah, we went from being a top team to fifth. Yeah.
And I still think that Ohio State actually probably leads. Or right in that top one or two, you know what I mean? I still think that we're in the same position. I think that his timeline originally was going to be the very last signing day, you know what I mean, for him to make that decision. It got moved up, and he started accelerating his visit plans and how he was talking with coaches, staff, not just ours, but like, hey, like this one might end sooner than later. And that still may be the case, but our staff feels that it's getting closer to, he might be pushing it back and delaying where he is and staying put until he doesn't have to. And with how many talented wide receivers we're in on, I'm not sure that we're going to be that choice. And not necessarily that we won't have room, because I think that we would make room for him. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's that talented. But I think that when we get Quincy Porter, Kellen Taylor, you know what I mean? Someone like that, Vernell Brown possibly. Do you still want to go to Ohio State when you have 4 other elite wide receivers at that
Not
point?
only that, on top of the guys they already have at Ohio State.
Yeah, so like that's kind of where the point is. Well, I'm not sure. I don't think it's a one situation or another. You know what I mean? Like that, hey, he doesn't want us to come here anymore and we're really fifth, or that we don't want him. I think it's just we really want him. He's not ready to say one way or another if he's trying to accelerate that timeline like we thought, or in staying put. And I don't think we can turn down any of the 4 that I mentioned anyways.
No, I agree. I think no matter what, it's going to be a great class because that's how Heartline rolls. He gets great receiving classes. He's never really had a bad one. He's had the Julian Fleming class didn't quite pan out the way we had thought it would, but other than Jackson. That being said, there was a class there too with a couple of guys who have now transferred, I think.
Keon Gray. So like I mean, he landed the top of the board guys in that Caleb Burton. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like they were bad players. Like, if you look at that group of wide receivers in that class, Ken Gray's and Kojo Antwi class, there's 3 legit college wide receivers in that group. You know what I mean? Like, if you
look just how deep we are,
50, like, no, just go down the rankings of the recruits, wide receiver recruits. There's like 3 or 4 that have actually done anything in college that year. So, like, it's not like since then. So it's not that he got a bad class. It's just he got the top of the board that year. Sometimes the position classes are not deep.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't pan out. And but Keanu Gray's went to Cal. It ain't like he went to some Bowling Green or something. I mean, it's like he can play a little bit. I think the guys we have down the depth chart can play, obviously, but it's just a stuffed room right now with a lot of talent, not a lot of experience, a lot of talent.
So we need to bring in 4 guys this year.
Yeah, and Igbuka got to prove himself to be that leader this year, and I think he will. I'm not really worried about him.
I mean, he hasn't been healthy. He wasn't healthy at all last year. Even after he returned, he was never healthy. I mean,
that's what I was trying to explain to a Michigan fan. He said, "Well, he played 10 games last year." It's like, yeah, but he wasn't healthy in those 10 games, even the ones he played.
He played 6 games healthy, 7 games healthy. You know what I mean?
He still had 41, 45 catches, something like that. And
and he was open. You know what I mean? It's just he wasn't healthy, and like he looked like he was getting better by the end of the year, but I mean, it still wasn't like ready 100%. To go.
Yeah, he wasn't the year before, obviously. This is for my boy Tom. I agree with him on this. There's a report out of Bucknuts that the OSU NIL is finally going heavily after offensive line and defensive line to help Justin Fry land some big fish like David Sanders and try. I still don't know how it's going to help or not, but I definitely think we need to allocate more resources to that. Because those, at least, I think the line of scrimmage is still everything in football. Whatever era we're in, the line of scrimmage is everything. So, is this true, or is this something that's like, it's just talk?
I think it's true. I don't think it's anything new, to be honest. Like for like thought process, we didn't play the NIL game strong up until middle of last year. You know what I mean? Like we really started showing money and flexing it like that. So I think that obviously where the kids are located. Mm-hmm. So you're going to obviously the Texas kids, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama.
Always hard to grab. Always hard to grab
originally. And there's not many of the big kids other than offensive line in the north. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're going to have to pay the D-line and the O-linemen that are not located near you. Like we got Carter Lowe and we didn't have to pay a premium, right? Like I know it's an Ohio kid, but it's still like he's still a top, in my opinion, a top 4 offensive tackle in the country. Mm-hmm. And our staff feels that way. Like they thought originally on, like when they took him, like he was top 4. You know what I mean? Like that was he was on their board really high. So I think it's us in general just being more aggressive with NIL than anything saying like, hey, I need to spend it more on a D-line and O-line. It's just we need to spend more in general if we want these kids, especially not being the local kids.
I think that's the key, though, what you just said. The funds get allocated when the position group in the region is not, not Paris Johnson. And so we have to go to Georgia to get these kids. We're going to need to pony up. So I think it's almost like depending on where the talent is where we have to pony up more than anything.
If it's between us and Georgia, you know what I mean, going head to head, we're going to have to, if a kid's in the South, we're just going to have to pay more. The more than Georgia will. Like that's the only thing that's really like to offset the difference. Like the kids can love us to death, you know what I mean? And Justin Fry is getting, which I have not been a huge fan of him. However, he's out there working his ass off to recruit right now. Like it's not like he's not trying and not doing the work. That we're getting the local kids that are very good players, like the Armstrongs and more last year, who I think are very good players. It's never easy. If you look at it historically, we've never recruited the offensive line that well. There's been a few classes here and there, you know what I mean? Like
the Mike Adams class comes to mind where it was like Webster and Sugarts and everything. Sugarts ended up being a bust, but it's still.
Yeah. So like there's a few classes and then we get like NPF, but like we wanted Carmen originally, you know what I mean? So and he was
a shocker. That year was a shocker.
Yeah. So, but like in general, like we've never been the team that has 5-star offensive linemen that we recruited. And so I think that it's just in now more days, you need to get better with, I think we're going to really utilize the transfer portal, hopefully. I mean, which is tougher at the end of the day, though, because you never know when the kid's going in or not going in.
Yeah.
With that.
You got
high school, that you're down to 5 schools, but in transfer, you have to hope these kids, other than according to Nick Saban, who are admitted to tampering and trying to get the cornerback from Toledo in the portal.
DeQuan Finn or whatever his name was. Yeah.
The corner. That just got drafted in the first round.
Oh, okay, yeah, that guy. Yeah, okay, gotcha. That guy. Yeah.
So
he didn't have to go. He didn't have to go to Bama to be first round pick.
No, so like it's a tough thing with O-line and O-line and D-line, but I think just we're painted more in general. It doesn't have to be position specific.
Gotcha. Okay, so if we have a year where the region is extremely strong in offensive line and defensive line, we probably won't pony up as much, is what you're saying.
Exactly. We'll spend it on corners and linebackers. You know what I mean? So I think it's just allocating the resources. So we need those positions more this year, right? Just depth purposes, and they're not from here.
Also, probably depends on how they feel about the talent they have on the roster. Like if they feel like it's developing at a pace they're comfortable with, they probably like, well, we don't need to go get that 5-star from California.
No, yeah, and obviously they want it, right? And I mean, because who doesn't want that? Because I mean,
not that they won't try, but
David Sanders is a kid, as Paris Johnson type. You know what I mean? That he could play and probably maybe not start for year 1. Which I'm not saying couldn't, but it's probably a year 2 he's starting and has 2 years of starting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They like their talent on the offensive line. They don't love the depth. You know what I mean? Like how many bodies they have, but they like the talent that they have in their room. Gotcha. They probably like 8 guys right now, like them that they think that can play here, no problem. Just getting 9 or 10, which that separates elite teams, especially with this new schedule and depth, which Ryan Day talks about all the day long is depth.
Well, when you're facing down possible 17 game schedule, depth's going to be crucial to what you can do and what you can't do.
No, exactly.
One last question for you, Dylan. How is Coach Locke doing with running back recruiting? Because obviously one of our big complaints with Tony Alford was he was not the most stellar recruiter on the planet. I don't think he was quite as bad as Buckeye Scoop likes to make him out, but he wasn't Brian Hartline. Okay, not everybody is. How's Locke doing so far?
He's building a relationship. I mean, he's came in late, very late to the cycle, and that's never an early thing, an easy thing. However, the good thing about him, though, he was already recruiting the same kids that we wanted at Oregon. You know what I mean? So Bo Jackson loves him. They have the very strong relationship. Jordan Davison's best relationship with him. And then he's bringing in the kid from Tennessee for an official visit, the running back from Chattanooga area. And then he's not Chattanooga. Yeah, I think it's Chattanooga. He's bringing in the kid from PA this weekend for an official visit. So, and then he was recruiting the kid that just committed to Oregon. And then like saying in the group, like it wasn't to be running back 1. He wasn't being brought in. So like we have a group of probably 3 or 4 guys. Brian Lewis, I know everyone's going to be hesitant of a South Florida kid, you know what I mean? And I don't think he comes here, but I mean, he's still in their relationship and he likes them. And so, I think that we're going to land 2 pretty good backs. I think Jordan Davison's going to be in the class. I'm pretty confident in that. And getting a second one, I don't think it will be 3 like we originally wanted. It's hard nowadays, especially when you have the number 1 running back in the country in Jordan Davison by most accounts. And then someone like Bo Jackson, who Georgia, Alabama, you know what I mean? They all want Michigan wanted. So like, it's going to be tough to convince the third guy, even if he is a lower star kid. And then all of a sudden you can have that conversation Georgia could with Bo Jackson. Hey, why would you want to go there when Jordan Davison is already in the class?
Yeah.
And they're trying to recruit West from PA. So like it's a tough conversation that they're trying to balance, but I think that they should just stick with 2, and I think they'll get 2 pretty good ones that they're happy with.
Yeah, 2 good ones, like the Tavien Evan prior year, and that'd be very nice to kind of mimic that as well. I mean, and I know people say, well, Evan never played here. Well, again, Evan got hurt, so it stifled his growth quite a bit. Wouldn't it be something? Our last question: if Coach Locke flipped Marquise Davis from Kentucky just to mess with Michigan?
Yeah, it's weird. They never really got past the talking stage either. Like it was just a brief intro, tried to connect again, and just he didn't express the interest in us. So you know what I mean? He hadn't been talking to us for a while anyways. So
Kentucky tripled anybody's NIL, according to a message board guy, because Kentucky has deeper pockets.
We'll see if that's where he actually commits to, though.
I agree. Signs with, yeah, I get you.
That's a different story, but hey, grown men, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is not for the faint of heart anymore. I don't even like to follow recruiting like I used to because it's so whirlwind and crazy. I think even Berm's getting frustrated these days with how following recruiting is because it's kids are just straight up, telling fibs now.
They are. There's no incentive for them to tell the truth anymore,
Nope, and they hate that crystal ball thing. So they hate, but it is what it is. Dylan, tell them where they can find you, buddy.
At Dylan Freeman VP on Twitter. X, whatever you want to call it now.
Yeah, I call it Twitter still because it'll always be Twitter to me. Sorry, Elon. I'm glad you bought it. I think you've done a lot of good things. The Community Notes is an amazing addition because I love Community Notes, but I'm not calling it X. Forget that nonsense. Twitter was unique. So, all right. We appreciate you, Jen. We're going to have you on again, obviously, through the summer because people are going to need their updates, and we're going to try to bring it to you. Guys, subscribe to the channel. If you like what you saw, like the video, comment below what you think is going to happen with recruiting, what you think is going to happen with the QB battle. Are you scared about why Jaime French possibly going elsewhere? Let us know. What do you think about the offensive line, defensive line recruiting? Do you think Justin Fry needs to step up, or do you think it's beyond his control? Let us know in the comments, guys. As always, we appreciate you for watching. Goodbye, God bless, and of course, go Bucs.